Okay, I'll share my screen. All right, let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for confirming. So we'll be studying about the entire ISO 27001 plus ISO 27701. So ISO 27001, it relates to information security management systems. And ISO 27701 is an add-on which talks about privacy. So that's how the two will be combined and studied together. All right. So today's lecture is going to be of around 3 hours, and we'll be studying about foundations of information security, privacy standards, context, and the modern threat landscape. This is the lecture roadmap. I'll continue. Okay, so learning objectives. By the end of this lecture, what you will be able to learn, it's about why information security and privacy are critical business issues. Define the CIA. So CIA is basically the three components of security. It is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We'll be discussing about these in detail in the coming slides. Then we'll gather knowledge on the key terms like asset, threat, vulnerability, risk, control, incidents, everything. We will learn what is ISO and how management system standards are actually working in practical life. We'll be knowing the purpose of ISO 27001, and we'll also see what privacy standard, which is 27701, adds to it and how it behaves as an extension of ISO 27001. We'll also be knowing about the relationship between the two standards. So this is just an example why ISO's implementation is getting more and more important for any organization. So these are some numbers from a study which IBM conducted in 2024, and IBM conducts a study every year. So they identified an average cost of a single data breach. It costed around $5 million to a single organization, right? And if a breach happens, then your customers, like your organization customers, are obviously going to sue you for your data, for their data loss. So ideally, in the Europe region, GDPR Act is very strict, and GDPR fines were issued to Meta, the company for Facebook, for unlawful cross-border transactions or data transfers. It costed around euro 1.2 billion for the company, right? The maximum window to report a personal data breach to regulators under GDPR, it is 72 hours. If we are not reporting it to regulators, you are. So this is just a brief background. So what are the consequences of a security or a privacy failure? It can cost you financially. Hi, Kavindra. All right. So
Chanel,
if,
hi. How are you?
hey, hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I hope the session is going good.
Hi, I'm good.
Hi. Please keep continue.
Right, thank you. So what are the consequences of a security or privacy failure? So if an organization notes down any failure or any security breach or incident, what are the consequences? It can cause financial loss, reputational damage, and operational impact, apart from others. So financial loss is like anything related to fine. Your organization can happen to have frauds or theft of funds or intellectual property, right? Um, so if you're not able to respond to incidents on a timely basis, that can cost you again in the way of fine or fraud breaches, and ultimately it can cost you revenue losses, because if your organization is not working, your email IDs, your accesses are not working due to any breach, the customers are not going to contact you, and you will ultimately cause a loss in revenue. Some of the examples of reputational damage are loss of customer trust, loss of loyalty. Media, nowadays how media treats anything that happens. If a company is listed, its share price drops drastically. just by the noise of an incident, even if it is false. Loss of business partnerships, like your partners go, your contracts are terminated. So these are some of the examples of reputational damage. And if you move forward to operational impact, there can be system outages, like you're not able to access your system in your company. If you're not able to access your system, you're not able to work on anything. So your deliverables will get impacted. So again, in relation to that, staff productivity would be lost during the recovery time. You can have legal proceedings and regulatory investigations as to why any incident occurred in your organization and why you are not having any security implemented before the incident. All right, before we move to the next slide, I would like to know from you guys, what do you understand about information and why is it important? Pooja, Subhendu.
The information, nothing but it is a data actually which contains your, the detailed in communication that happens you are giving to sharing with the other party, so that they can take action on it or they can communicate based on the information that you have shared with the others.
Right.
That is mostly awareness about the particular thing.
Mhm.
I can say that is the information talks about.
Okay, nice. Pooja, any inputs from your side? Pooja? Okay, let's move ahead. So, information. I'll move to the next slide. All right. So information is anything through which a company is formed, right? Nowadays, every company is transacting their entire businesses online, right? So it is all about information. They do not have any product. Even if they have a product or service to offer, it is also hosted online. So everything is information, right? And why is information security important, or what do we understand by information security? So it is the practice of protecting information and information systems from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction. Okay. So what is the difference between information and information assets? So Swindu, as you mentioned, information is any data which the organization transacts upon. So what is information systems? So information system is anything where your information is stored, like your servers, your cloud, your hard drives, or any form of data storage devices where the information is securely stored. So that is information systems. For example, if you are hosting your information on AWS servers, and if the AWS servers gets attacked, right, or it gets damaged, and if you do not have any backup, so your entire
Mhm.
information gets lost, right? We can easily understand it through an example of Instagram or Facebook, right? So Instagram, everything, your photos, your data, your information, it is stored within the servers hosted by Meta, right? If anything happens to Meta, you must remember, like last year, I think there was a couple of hours glitch where no one was able to access their Instagram accounts. I think it was last year itself. So that was an attack. That was a breach, right? No one was able to access their information because their information systems were compromised, right? So that
Yes.
is how information and information systems is important, and parallelly, their security is very important. So, information security is protected into three forms: digital, physical, and knowledge. Digital, it is in the form of databases, emails, files, cloud data, applications, backups, or any hard drive encryption. So, wherever your data is stored in a digital form, we can we should have information security applied over there. Second is the physical. So, physical, the most renowned example of physical is the servers. So the servers are always physical, even if they are hosted on cloud, they are somewhere located, which is physical, right? Apart from that, we have printed documents, physical media, USB drives, paper records, hard disks, laptops, computers, and whatnot. So these are all physical information storage devices. Then we have knowledge, information in people's minds. So that is what we know as intellectual property, right? Processes, know-how, trade secrets. So all this information is classified under knowledge. So that is how we need to protect information, digital, physical, and
Excuse, sorry to interrupt. Can you repeat that information digital one again?
yes. So digital one is databases or email, like your email accounts, your Instagram accounts. If you're placing your files or folders on any drive like Google Drive, SharePoint, OneDrive, so that all gets covered under digital.
Okay.
It covers applications and backups as well. So you have a WhatsApp backup of your chat in your phone, right? When you change the phone, you use that backup to reinstall your WhatsApp on your new device. So that is again information. And if that is not secure, if someone has access to your WhatsApp chat history, they can easily install it on their device and they can access all your chats. So you need
So
to
all are
secure it.
in, so whatever information available on digitally, that is called digital information. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So we have already discussed why and how information is a critical business asset. An information asset is any information that has value to the organization and it needs to be protected. So again, there are some examples of information asset. So information asset and information system, it can be used as interchangeably. It's the one and same thing. So if we talk about information system, how is it classified? It is classified under data assets, system assets, process assets, and physical assets. What all we have in data assets? Customer personally identifiable information. So if you are like your date of birth, your Aadhaar card number, so all this falls under customer PII. And if you are sharing this with anyone, like your organization where you're working, your social media accounts, or while accessing any website, you are providing your personally identifiable information, your mobile number. So all these things fall under data assets, right? Payment data.
Okay.
You store your credit card and debit card details on Google Pay, Phone Pay, Paytm. So that is again data asset. Employee HR records. So as I was saying that you share your personal details with your HR of your organization. So that again falls under data asset. Your financial statements. So some of the companies ask for your previous year's bank statement or your salary slips, right? And even your ITR data is stored on the income tax website of government. So that again falls under data asset. And intellectual property. So anything which you have patented under your name, you have discovered, or the source code of any system which you have built, it also falls under data assets. These all are assets which has some data in it, right?
So
Moving
basically,
forward
it
to
is
system.
so
Yes.
basically it is three type total. How many types of assets you told? Just system, data,
So
process. Any other?
yeah, there are four type of assets: data, system, process, and physical.
Okay.
I hope my screen is visible to you.
No, not yet visible. So I am just noting that I'm forgetting that some of the
Oh, I have already
yes.
shared it. Kavindra, is it
No.
visible to you?
No, the screen is not visible. I
Oh,
mean, you are
that's
visible, so
strange.
you must not be projecting your screen as of now.
I have shared it. Let me just check it. I even obtained a confirmation that if my screen
Yes,
is
you
visible or
are
not.
sharing screen, I think. So there's an option.
Uh,
No, the slides are not
Shared it,
visible.
but why is it not? Let me check again.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. So
so I'll quickly run through those slides again, which you might have
yeah.
missed. This was
Just
the
please,
introduction slide.
just a second,
Yeah.
Shall just drag it a little bit upwards, the presentation. Just drag it. It's coming little, I mean, down on the screen, on the like bottom corner. So just drag it a little bit up.
Okay, I am presenting it on a full size. Okay. Let me try to switch off my camera, maybe if that is objecting it. Is it appearing fine now?
It's still
Yes,
same. Is it fine for you, Subhendu?
yes, fine, because the complete screen is appearing here.
Okay.
Okay, I
All right.
think camera and both were not working parallelly together. All right. So this was the cover slide that we were speaking about. And um, this is the lecture roadmap. So what I was explaining currently, these were the consequences of a security or privacy failure: financial loss, reputational damage, and operational impact. Right?
Yes.
Information security classification under three forms: digital, physical, and knowledge.
Okay.
And then we were discussing this information
Last.
system as a critical business asset. It is divided into four: data asset, system asset, process asset, and physical assets. So we
Okay.
discussed data assets examples: customer personally identifiable information, employee HR records, financial statements, and intellectual property. System assets, it constitutes of applications and databases. So wherever you are storing your information, that is a database. Network infrastructure. So if you are transferring your information via Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or any other device, emails, so that is basically network infrastructure. So that is your information in transit. Cloud platforms, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform. So as I was talking that you are storing your databases on AWS, right? So that is again a cloud platform where your information is hosted. That is called a system asset. Security monitoring tools. So there are various devices like intrusion detection system or a continuous monitoring system of an organization's information. So that is basically categorized under security monitoring tools. That is system asset. Process assets. The process assets constitutes business continuity procedures, development pipelines. So development pipelines means CI pipelines, continuous integration or continuous development pipelines, which we push code into production environment. So I think Pooja would be more familiar with these terms as she's into VAPT. So whenever we are building any application or a platform, so we have to first build it under a sandbox or a demo environment or a development environment. We have to test it, and then we have to host it live into production. So those are the development pipelines which we use to host a particular environment. Contract management processes. So anything related to customer relationship management, CRM tool, that falls under process assets. And third party service delivery. Like if you're working as a third party delivery model, so that falls under process asset.
One example, can you give that the third party service delivery?
Yeah, sure. So many a times what happens, a company is not able to provide 100% services to its customers. Uh,
Mhm.
like if a company is an auditing firm, a consulting firm, and a customer comes and asks that, can you also provide internal auditing services to us? We say no, we do not provide that, but we can hire a third party on our behalf who will
Mhm.
provide the required services to you. So that is a third party service delivery.
Only for auditing or anything else?
Anything. So it can be onboarding, for example, if your company is a startup and you do not have an HR module or an HR segment within your company, and if you want to onboard 5 employees, right, but you're not able to do it by yourself, so what you do, you hire a third party consulting agency or a third party recruiting firm
Okay.
who does the interview for you, identifies 5 resources, and then supplies it to you. So that is
Okay.
again a third party service delivery.
Okay. So for example, as per my understanding, just I want to explain this thing. Maybe it is not correct. What I understood. So third party means whatever, any kind of, like, let's say your company, you are giving some process actually support you need. So or any application you are using some third party application. So, but the auditing part is totally different from this one, no? So the, as far as I mean, the application
Yeah,
use or service
that was
use.
just an example. So
Uh-huh.
anything which you are not able to supply by yourself to your customer and you
Mhm.
onboard any third party for that, it is known as third party service delivery.
Okay. So, So auditing will be done. The third party will do that, or the core company will do that auditing.
So ideally, if you are hiring a company, so that company's responsibility is to do the auditing. But if if the company is not able to complete 100% of the auditing, they may hire certain experts from outside market to
Okay.
complete, let's say, 10 or 20% of the entire auditing program. So that is known as third-party service delivery,
Okay. 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 Got it.
right? And a
Yeah.
clear example, if you forget about auditing, let's say your company has hired you for providing the auditing services, and now they come up and ask that, Suvendu, we are not able to hire any employees from the market. Can you assist us in that? Since you do
Okay.
not have any specialization in hiring people, so you hire a third party to
Yes.
provide services to the company on your behalf. So that is again a third party service delivery.
Okay.
So the contract will be under your name, but you are taking services from someone else in the market.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. Even auditing also, that person, that company will do that one, third party also.
Yeah, it can be done by third party. So, for example,
Auditing.
if you have hired someone for doing ISO auditing, right?
Yes.
You have hired XYZ company, they will do your ISO certification. But now you ask the same company that, boss, we also need a SOC certification or SOC attestation. Then
Okay.
ISO certification body will say that we are not specialized in that, we cannot do that, but we can hire someone else from the market on our behalf who can provide you the SOC auditing services,
Okay. Okay.
right? So in this way, you are connected with just one party. You have contracted with just ISO body, but they are also providing you a bundled service for SOC to a
Okay.
third party.
Got it. Got it.
Okay. Then we have physical assets. So physical assets includes server rooms, data centers, laptop, mobile devices, any backup media, hard drives, or any access control hardware like the security tokens or the biometric devices which we use to log into a particular system. So all these are physical assets.
One more doubt here. Actually, can you repeat the contract management process again, if you don't mind?
Contract
That,
management processes. Okay,
yes.
sure. So contract management processes is basically a CRM, customer relationship management. Okay.
Okay.
So before onboarding any customer into your business, you develop a contract with them, right? You
Yes.
have a contract signed by both the parties. So that is simply known as contract management processes. So your legal team will generate a contract, they will formulate it, they will review it and finalize it, they will share it with the customer, they will review it, and if there are any terms which needs to be amended, it will be done. Once that is done, the contract will be signed. So you have to store your contracts under the CRM module that every company holds, right? So that is basically known as contract management process.
So will that not be coming under the business continuity procedure, or that is different
No,
than this?
business continuity is entirely different. So business continuity, what it means is, if your organization gets attacked by any hacker, right?
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
so how will you continue your business? You cannot
Okay.
access your systems, you cannot access your files or folders, anything. In that case, you have to develop a committee who is responsible for responding to any kind of disasters or business impact.
Okay. Got
So they will host your platform to an alternative backup site where you
it.
will log in, and from there you will initiate a restoration of your backups. Once your data is restored, you will start operating from that site.
Okay. Okay. Clear. Clear. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Pooja, Suvendu, from this slide?
No, it's clear now.
Oh, sir, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. I'll move ahead. So here comes the CIA triad, the three fundamental properties of information security. So you will be hearing about the CIA everywhere. So that's the most crucial component of any information security management system. So it says every information security program must protect all three properties simultaneously and without compromise. So if any one of it gets breached, your information security gets breached. So that's a complete failure of the entire plan which you are preparing. So what is C? Confidentiality. Confidentiality who can see your data or who is authorized to see your data. So that is what meant by confidentiality. It says only authorized people can access the information that you supply. Right? For example, if you're sharing any information with me on a trust basis, only I should have the access to it and I should not share it with anyone else. So you can more easily understand it with um, a timer feature which is introduced in WhatsApp, right? You can share an image with a view once functionality, right? So whoever you are sending an image to, that person can view the image. The moment they close it, it is no longer visible to them again. So that is an example of confidentiality,
Okay.
so that no one else can see it afterwards. If the phone gets in hands of some other people, they should not be able to see your shared images. So that is confidentiality. Integrity. So whatever data we are supplying, is it trustable? Like, can we trust the data? What it means, information is accurate and has not been altered. So for example, if you are sending an email to me, right? You are writing a phone number in that email and you are sending it to me. So I have to be sure, or you have to be sure, that the 10 digits phone number which you have sent to me is correctly supplied and no one has hacked it in between and changed the contact details. So this is the example of integrity. Availability is all about accessibility. So whatever data is being hosted online or anywhere, it should be accessible as required. It says authorized users can access it when they need it. So that is availability. For example, your Instagram account, it is always accessible or it is always available. Whenever you want, you can log into your account and you can access your data, right? If you're not able to log in for 2 hours due to any server issues or anything, so that is a loss of availability. Any questions in the CIA triad?
No.
All right, I'll move ahead. So CIA, there's a detailed slide on confidentiality which says only authorized access. Ensuring information is accessible only to those authorized, it prevents unauthorized disclosure. So when is confidentiality violated? Whenever a hacker accesses a customer database. So I'm also presenting some of the key controls against each confidentiality example, availability, and integrity. So if a hacker accesses a customer database, what control can be applied so that our database is not hacked? It is called as access control and multi-factor authentication. So these are the two most prominent controls which every organization applies nowadays to prevent any hacker from accessing your account. An employee emails sensitive data to the wrong recipient. So it is data encryption. The control which we can apply here is data encryption. How does this help? So if we have sent encryption data to a particular person, like if you're sending some data over email to me, which is encrypted, so only I have the key to decrypt it, right? To decode it. So even if you are sending it to a wrong recipient by mistake, they will still not be able to access it because they do not have the decryption key. So that is how data encryption helps. Unencrypted data is transmitted over public Wi-Fi. So the control we are implementing over here is data classification and need to know. So we need to classify data on the basis of confidential, private, personal, internal. So these are some of the data classification examples. If you are if your unencrypted data is being transmitted over public Wi-Fi, but if it is properly classified, the Wi-Fi signals would not be able to access your unencrypted data until and unless it is marked as public. For example, an ex-employee retains access after leaving. So, for example, you have left your company and you still have the user ID and password of your company account. So that can be prevented by regular access reviews and deprovisioning. Within ISO 27001, we recommend a large organization to implement at least a quarterly access review. So when you are reviewing your accesses quarterly, you get to know that 10 employees were terminated during the last quarter, so you have to remove their accesses so that they cannot access the organization data anymore. So these are the specific control clauses where these controls are listed in the ISO standards: A 5.15, A 8.3, and A 8.24. So while discussing the controls and annexures, we'll be studying it directly from the ISO bare standard. That will be helpful in appearing for the exam because it's an open book exam. You can take the standard with you and you can easily collect information from there and provide answers.
See, the total controls, can we cover it? Actually, how many controls are there and the categories
So
of the
yeah,
control?
we'll cover everything.
That
There
will
are
cover?
90 controls
Mm.
in ISO 27001. We'll be reading each and every control in detail.
Okay, so because this A.5.15 access control, it is there in that
Yeah,
A.83.
everything would be there.
Okay,
So it's a clause 5 control. It will be mentioned under clause 5, clause 8.
plus
Similarly, it is clause 8.
okay.
So don't worry, we'll be sharing the ISO standard with you. Once we are completed with it, you can refer to it at any time. It lists down all the 93 controls which an organization wants to apply.
So are these controls mandatory to remember?
No, no, no. You can always refer the standard for it.
Okay, just only for
And
reference. Okay.
yes, yes. And as I said, that ISO provides open book examinations, so you can take the standard with you. And whatever questions are there, you can easily access the list of controls and answer the questions.
Okay, fine.
All right. The next one is integrity. So it talks about accuracy and trustworthiness, ensuring information is accurate, complete, and has not been altered accidentally, maliciously, or knowingly. So when is integrity violated? Whenever a hacker tampers with a financial transaction record, right? The control we have around this is digital signatures and checksums. Whenever a software update is corrupted during download, so we should have a version control or a change management procedure. I was talking about the CI/CD pipelines in the earlier slides. So that is change management control. If an employee accidentally modifies a configuration file, so we should have audit logging and temper detection. How it helps is if you have a proper audit logging, every change would be recorded. So if you later identify that a change was made which was incorrect, you can go back to the earlier logs and restore the earlier file, which was the correct version. Log files are altered to hide unauthorized activity. So what happens if a log file is itself is altered? So you have to have input validation and data integrity checks to validate that there is no unauthorized activity or any alteration to the log files that is being done. Okay. Availability. So availability, as we understood, it is accessibility when you need it, ensuring authorized users have reliable and timely access to information and systems when and where they need it. When do we see that the availability is violated? Whenever there is a denial of service attack, which completely takes down the website and you're not able to access your accounts or information. What is the key control? Backups and recovery procedures. So if you have a backup, like I said, you have a backup of your WhatsApp chat. So if your WhatsApp gets corrupted or someone hacks it, you can always use the backup to install it on a new device. Ransomware encrypts all files. Ransomware is basically virus. So if a virus lands into your system and does encryption to all your files, again, you can use a backup or you can use a redundancy and failover systems control. So that is again a part of a backup. A key server crashes with no backup or failover. That can be covered by business continuity planning, right? So as we discussed that if a disaster occurs in your organization, you can always have a business continuity plan enforced on that to recover from the disaster. A natural disaster like earthquake or tsunami destroys the primary data center. You can have the control around denial of service protection and load balancing. So if a particular server, you're not able to access it due to load failure, since there is a natural disaster, you should always have a control of load balancing. so that your server load gets shifted to your backup servers. That's how you can uh, maintain continuity of your business in the event of a natural disaster. Any questions around C, I, or A?
I don't know the certain terms actually used in DDoS. That one I am not
Okay. So
acquainted with
DDoS
those.
is denial of service. What is denial of service? So whenever you're not able to access your account, right? You continuously enter your ID and password, and it says that unable to authorize, unable to log in, or a server issue. So that is a denial of service. You're not getting the service which you have registered for, right? So
Okay.
whenever any hacker hacks a particular system through denial of service, no one else apart from the hacker is able to access those accounts. So that is a denial of service.
Okay.
Any other term?
This is one of the most common used technique, right, Shanil, for cyber attacks and all. Like one of the oldest and most common DOS and DDoS attacks.
Yeah, so it's the most dangerous one, I must say. Like, if you are
Yes.
not able to access your service, you will not even be able to like try how to log in into your accounts.
If it affects one of the pillar like CIA, it affects the availability, so it becomes very critical, right?
Yes, right.
Thank you.
So even if availability gets impacted, but again, along with availability, your confidentiality and integrity also gets impacted.
Yes, because one is linked to another.
Yeah, correct. So if you're not able to access your account, how are you going to ensure that your data is confidential or available? It is not available anymore, right?
Right. And if someone has gained access to your account, he's definitely going to alter your data or affect, right, your data, make changes.
Exactly. So there can be ransom calls, there can be threat calls that if you do not give me money or give me something, I will leak your data to the public or things like that.
Yes. Yes. The most common individual attacks.
Yes. And DOS attacks are generally done on companies or large organizations where data is very crucial.
Yes, I mean, I have seen some reports. I have read some reports. I have also seen interviews of some people like who has been affected by this attack. So in India, I think this kind of where they encrypt your information, this is still not very common. But if you see outside India, in US or Europe, this is one of the very common type of attack which happens to an individual where they encrypt all their information and then they ask them to pay in crypto. And I have seen so many videos and interviews. There was this was very one of the interesting case. They encrypt her data and all her phones, like everything, and then they asked her to pay in crypto. She was around 80 years old woman. She didn't know what crypto was, how to use crypto. So then they sent her the video. They taught her crypto, how to do the crypto trading, and then they got the payment on crypto, and then they like decrypted. Uh,
Okay, okay. Yeah, all right.
In this case,
So,
they can report the crime branch, right? Instead, when they're saying insisting to pay ransom amount, so they can also report to the crime branch, right?
yes, yes, that
This
can
is
be reported to the cybercrime branch.
Obviously, Shanil and Suvendu, I think they can also go to the crime branch. Or in India, we have IC4, right? 1930 is the number also. And but the thing is, like, not most of the time they are also able to solve the crimes, right? And for one person who, like, for an individual, for me also, the kind of data I have on my phone, especially the photos, like the memories I have, right? Everything I have, the contacts I have, so that is very important. So one prefers to pay and get those information back instead of not having her photos. With that grandmother, it was seen like her grandchildren used to live far away. She didn't had any photos of them. Only photos she had was on her phone. So she used to miss them a lot. So it became another triggering point, right? So that's what.
Yeah, right. So that's how the hackers targets the individuals and the companies.
Yes.
My question is here: how does a person come to know that his site is attacked, or someone is actually
So they will
interfering
lose the
in his?
access completely, and they will get ransom call or threat calls. Like they will get emails or phone calls or SMSs that I have hacked your account. Pay me 1 lakh rupees, and then I will provide you the password again. Otherwise, I will leak all your data to the public, or I will delete everything. So that
That
is
means
how
already
threat
they have
calls.
that means they have already hacked. I mean, hacked your
Yeah,
account
yeah,
and
right, right. After hacking, only they will do the ransom call. If they will do it before, the person will secure their account, right? Or they will download the information and delete the account.
so beforehand we
So
can
one,
guess it actually the person someone is actually attacking your system or trying to breach. Um,
no, generally you will not be able to see it live because if a person is trying to hack, either they will succeed or they will fail. If they will fail, you will not get to know it, or you might get a notification that someone is trying to change your password if it is not you, like the random emails you get, right? When you try to change
yeah,
your password.
Gmail that used to get actually. Suppose you are using two, three like mobile and system you're using try simultaneously, so you will get message also. So similarly
Right.
for this case also you will get something. Someone is hacking your system, so you'll get some notifications beforehand.
Correct, correct. And whenever you change your own password, your Gmail
Mhm.
password or your Instagram password, you always get email communications that someone is logged
Mhm.
into your account and
Yes,
someone is
yes,
requested to change a password. If it was not you, kindly report it or else ignore the message. So these kind of emails we are getting, correct?
yes, yes, yeah.
Now let's move ahead. So this is just the summary of the CIA triad that we studied. Okay, now comes several terminologies, which is the essential language of the information security. So, throughout all the controls within ISO, you will be more often hearing of these terms: asset, threat, vulnerability, risk, control, incident, all of these. So, what is asset? As we have already discussed, information asset, anything of value to the organization that needs to be protected. It can be data, system, processes, people, or physical items. So, those are the assets. What is a threat? A potential cause of harm like malware, phishing, insider abuse, flood, hardware failure, human error. So anything of fear that your data might get, that your asset might get impacted, it is a threat, right? Whenever you go out and you lock your house, there's a threat that someone might enter into your house for a theft,
Yes,
right? So that is a threat. Vulnerability. So any weakness that a threat can exploit, like unpatched software, poor access controls, or untrained staff. To continue with my previous example of locking the house, right? Whenever you go out, you lock the house, but you go 5 kilometers ahead and you think, was it properly locked or not? I cannot remember, right? So that is a vulnerability. If you have not locked your house properly, if you have not put the lock correctly, and you think that your lock is unlocked, your door is unlocked, you forgot to lock it. So that is a vulnerability. Anyone can easily enter into your home and do a theft.
yes,
So that's a vulnerability. Now, what is a risk? The likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability, right? Again, I'll continue with the same example. So what was your threat? That you are out of your house and someone can enter it. Vulnerability, the door was not properly locked. Now, what is the risk? Risk is the asset which is kept in your house. So, for example, you must have some money, your gold, or your devices like laptops or something. So, that becomes the risk factor that my devices or my monetary items can get stolen. So, that is a risk. Control. So, what is a control now? A safeguard to reduce risk, right? Preventive, it is multi-factor authentication. Detective, it is CM alerts. Or corrective, which is patch management. I'll again continue with the same example. Like you can have a security guard placed outside of your home. So even if you forget to lock your door, he will protect anyone from entering it. So that is a control.
Okay.
You can have CCTV installed. You
Yeah.
can check on your mobile device whether the door is properly locked or not, or if someone has accessed your house or not. So that is a control. Okay. Incident. An event that has breached CIA from minor policy violation to major data breach. So incident is anything bad that has happened. That is known as incident. For example, even after placing the controls, or even after being vulnerable or the fear of threat, your house gets robbed. So that is an incident. I'm taking the example of house because it is easy to remember and understand, but you can anytime replace house with your information asset, like your database, your personal files, folders, anything. So if anyone is able to access your personal data, files, folders, user IDs, passwords, anything, your bank details, that is an incident. Okay, how does the risk chain work? Now it again shows the same thing, threat plus vulnerability is equals to risk. So if I repeat again, threat is your locked home. Vulnerability is the fear of door being unlocked. Impact is the theft. Like anyone can enter your home and do a theft. That is the impact. And how do we calculate risk? It is calculated by likelihood multiplied by impact. So we'll be studying about likelihood in the coming slides. So likelihood is basically the probability that anyone can access your data. So you have to rate the likelihood and rate the impact. When you multiply both, you get the risk ratings. So we'll learn how to prepare a risk matrix on the scale of 1 to 5. For preparing a risk matrix, you have to define likelihood and impact for each of the risk scenario that you define. So it says every identified risk needs an owner and a treatment decision. So how the risk would be treated and who is responsible for treating that particular risk.
Okay.
Okay, the ISO standards landscape. So before moving ahead, I would recommend having a break of 5 short minutes. Let's connect back after 5 minutes. You can have your water bottles filled or you can have your teas.
Okay.
All right, let's connect back at 7:10.
Sure. Sure.
All right.
Okay, sure.
All right. Is everyone back? Pooja, Suvendu?
Yes.
Okay. Pooja, there's no one's your back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Cool. Let's continue.
Before proceeding, can I ask? Sorry, I'm asking some questions actually. I
Yeah,
don't know,
please
sir.
go ahead.
One is a basic thing actually I want to understand. When we have
Suvendu, you went on mute.
when we have ISO standard, so before coming to the GDPR, actually ISO was there. Every company they used to maintain the ISO standards. So what is the necessity of GDPR then and other certification now it's globally available? So that is a basic
So,
questions I.
okay. So GDPR is required generally in the EU region. ISO is a global certification. So anyone across the globe can obtain ISO certification. But GDPR is more concerned for any entities which is doing business within the Europe region. So within Europe, personal or private data is considered as the most crucial thing. And you have to
Okay.
protect it at any cost. If it gets breached, the company through which it gets breached is liable to heavy fines. So that's why every company tries to be compliant with the GDPR Act in
Okay.
the Europe
Then
region generally.
okay, when you are dealing with some business with the European companies, so you should follow the GDPR matters. Yes.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So
What
every
about the
customer in
ISO?
Europe will,
ISO. Sorry. Yeah, you go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, what about the ISO? But ISO also international standard organization that we are following.
Yes, ISO is also an international standard. So ISO basically talks about information security management systems. So how you are securing your entire information, right?
Mhm.
So, but GDPR talks essentially about the personal information. Getting
Okay.
my point? So there's a difference. So when you are applying a GDPR Act to your organization, you are more concerned about the security of all the PII, the personally identifiable information in your company. So that
Mhm.
will give you a certain additional set of controls and an additional satisfaction to the counterparties that this company is compliant in both the standards and that security is top notch.
Okay.
And similarly, there is a SOC attestation, if you've heard of it, Service Organization Controls. So that is again around the data security, right? So that is generally more used in the US region, in the America.
Okay. So it is a or it is a governing body or what is SOC that you are saying?
Yeah, the SOC is governed by AICPA, so American
Mhm.
Institute of Certified Public Accountants. That is the governing body which has released the SOC attestation, the SOC framework. And any company which needs to comply, it needs to implement a certain set of controls and get it certified through a CPA firm.
Why there is so many SOC, GDPR, ISO? It is confusing again.
Yeah,
Then.
there are many. These are just three. There are many certifications, and I must say that a good portion of the controls are common in all these frameworks. Like if you are applying ISO and SOC 2 in your organization, you will
Mhm.
approximately have 20 to 30 controls which are common, like physical access controls, backup controls, right? These
Okay.
all controls remain common and consistent across all the frameworks. So there is a HIPAA
HIPAA,
framework,
yeah.
which is essentially
Medical.
for healthcare
Mhm.
industries, right?
Yes.
So HIPAA and HITRUST are generally governing the healthcare industries for medical equipments, medicines, or hospitals, right?
Mhm.
And then we have the FedRAMP. So FedRAMP is basically governing the NIST framework. So
Mhm.
NIST is again information security, but that is a separate standard. It has a separate set of controls. So we have a lot of frameworks that a company undergoes. Like if a
So,
company is producing any application and hosting it on Google Play Store, they might also go for CASA certification, which is a certification by Google.
so my understanding is it is only having ISO certification is not suffice to continue in this
No,
role actually.
it is
Because,
sufficient. It is
uh,
sufficient. It only depends like what data security your customer is actually looking at or what data you have in your organization. For example, you do not have any healthcare related data, you do not need to go for HIPAA or high trust, right? You do not have any personally identifiable information, you do not need to go for GDPR.
Okay. But
Okay,
certain
so it
parameters
allows,
areas will be covered, no? In that also you'll have to know other things which.
yes, yes. So once we go in detail through all the clauses, you will get to know what all controls are implemented through ISO. You can then judge whether your organization is handling any data of such type. Only then ISO will be applicable to you. For example, you do not hold any customer data, right? You just provide consulting services. You do not,
Okay.
like, for example, I do not hold any customer data. I'm talking to you. I do not have any data of yours. I do not
Great.
give you any login ID or password. Nothing is there. So I do not need to be ISO certified. Like my company shouldn't be ISO certified to deal with you,
Okay.
right?
So in that case, what matters then? GDPR or SOC
No,
or
nothing
any?
matters.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters in that case.
Then without any certification, how to manage that?
No, you are just obtaining, like you go to your chartered accountant for filing your ITR. You do not ask for a certification, right? If he is a
Right.
qualified chartered accountant, that is sufficient.
Mhm.
Like in my
Okay.
case, see, I hold all these certifications which I'm teaching you. I've been associated with these bodies for more than 5 years. So that is the
Mhm.
only credibility I have, right? I do not run a company, so I do not need to have a certification. I am
Okay.
personally delivering services to you. So on a personal basis, I am holding all the ISO certifications which I need to have. So that is the certification which I can personally have. But while running a company might need additional certifications in the name of company rather than in the name of individual. So for example, you are working in Intel, right? So
Mhm.
if you are holding a certification that might not be of use to the company
Mhm.
should have a certification in its own name, which it can present to its clients.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
And one more question. That SQL injection, I don't know that is because I'm technically I'm not uh,
So,
that area.
okay, SQL is sequential query language. So,
Uh-huh.
some companies are maintaining their databases in SQL format, SQL or no SQL. So,
Uh-huh.
SQL is sequential query language and no SQL is non-sequential.
Mhm.
So, SQL injection is basically injecting any code or any harmful content into that particular database so that the information can get hacked. So, that is basically SQL injection technique.
Okay. Mhm.
So SQL injection is used in both ethical hacking as well as normal non-ethical hacking.
Because this term was not used before actually 10 years back. It's still injection kind of term. I never heard
No,
of that.
no, no.
Now,
It was being used, but nowadays since cyber crimes are rising very much, that's why these
mhm.
terms are getting more often circulated.
Okay, we know only the SQL database and all. So that is okay. The injection part. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Chanel, there is a new injection attack similar to it for GPTs, right? That has come up. Similar to SQL injection, there is some attack for GPTs also. I'm
Yeah,
forgetting the term. It is being used
I
for.
haven't heard of. It is some sort of AI attack, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me know. Is it prompt injection attack?
Yes, I was also going to say the same prompt injection attack.
Like whenever you're drafting a prompt, the prompt gets altered by a set of code, which again provides
Yes.
someone access to your systems. So yeah, many more things to come with AI.
Yes. Really.
All right. Is the PPT visible again?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. ISO standards landscape. So now we are finally entering into the ISO standard. ISO standard. What is ISO and why should we care? So ISO was founded in 1947 in Geneva, Switzerland by International Organization for Standardization. And there was an additional organization which was also part of it. It is known as Electrocution Committee. It will appear in the coming slides. So who were the members? 168 plus national standard bodies worldwide were a part of this International Organization for Standardization. How many standards? They launched 24,000 plus standards across industries. Like for manufacturing industries, there would be different standards. For uh, industries running online business, a separate set of standards. Service-based industries, separate standards. What was the purpose? To facilitate international trade through consistent standards. So as we were talking, what happens when we obtain an ISO certification on our company name? It gains a recognition in the international market. So for example, your company is situated in India and you want to do business in the US. How will you ensure, how will you provide satisfaction to the US client that we are a good company? If you have ISO standard, you can just provide the certificate that we are ISO certified. We follow a separate set of controls which is specially designed for us, and you can easily rely on our processes. So that's where ISO standard is very important. Okay, so management system standards. So the standards across ISO, they share a high level structure. What is an HLS? It says that the same clause 1 to 10 are being used across all these standards. We will study in detail about all these clauses in the upcoming slides. So what it helps in? It helps in integrated implementation. So whoever wants to implement 3 ISO certification within their company, they can just go with same clause 1 to 10. Only the number of controls would change, but the clauses would remain the same. Okay. What is a management system standard? So on previous slide, we were having management system standard. We'll get to know what it is. A management system standard is a framework specifying what an organization must do, not how, right? So why the standards are created? To provide you a guideline that these are the tested set of criteria or set of activities which an organization can follow to maintain a good information security posture within the company. That's why it talks about what an organization must do, not how it should be done. All ISO management system standard use the PDCA cycle. What is PDCA? Plan, do, check, act. So it implementation of any standard falls or divides into 4 categories. Planning. So first of all, you need to plan how to implement ISO within your company, which is covered under clause 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Then do. Then comes the actual implementation part. Clause 7 and 8 talks about how the standard can be implemented. Then comes the check part, which is under clause 9. It talks about monitoring. So you have planned to implement a standard. Then under clause 7.8, you have implemented the standard. Now you need to continuously monitor whether that standard is correctly working or not. Then comes the act part, clause 10. So after monitoring, if you find any deficiencies or any controls which are not properly working, you need to act upon those and remediate the disconnects. So it says correct, improve, and update the controls and policies as required. The PDCA cycle repeats continuously. ISMS or PIMS is a living system, not a one-time project. So you need to continuously monitor your controls. You need to continuously change or make corrections to the controls according to the change in environment where your company is operating.
So
Any questions about PDCA?
Yes, sir. What is that ISMS and PIMS here? Actually, is it related to ISO or it is?
So, okay, ISMS is Information Security Management System, which is covered under ISO 27001.
Okay.
PIMS is Privacy Information Management System, which will get covered under ISO 27701. Since we are learning a combined approach of both the standards, that's why both are mentioned here.
Okay.
You'll get used to these terms in the coming 10 lectures. Don't worry about it. Okay. You'll hear it for 5 to 10 times and you'll learn it eventually. So I is information, P is privacy, rest is safe.
Thanks.
This is the ISO standard family, 9001, 14001, 22301. We'll be focusing in this lecture on 27001 and 27701, security and privacy. Okay, now we'll enter into the information security management systems, what it is, what it requires, why it matters, and things like that. This is a repeated slide, I believe. So its full name is ISO IEC 27001-2022. It was published by ISO and IEC Joint Committee under Security Committee Meeting 27. Is it certifiable? Yes. You can obtain certification under your own name or under the name of an organization. The certificate is always issued by accredited certification bodies. Replacements. So ISO 27001, the earlier version was 2013, and it had a major update in 2022 where 14 controls were deleted and merged to a total of 93 controls. So we have an Annexure A structure where all the 93 controls are detailed out. We'll be studying each and every of the 93 controls in the coming slides. Purpose. The purpose of ISO 27001 is to establish, implement, and maintain and improve the information security management system in a company. Is it risk-based? Yes. We do a risk assessment and treatment are mandatory requirements for ISO or broadly any certificate. It starts with risk assessment. If there is no risk, you do not need any certification. ISO 27001 structure. So as we were talking, it is a 10 clause framework, clause 1 through clause 10. So clause 1, clause 2, clause 3 talks generally about the scope of the company, the name of the company, and the basic details of the company. What is essential under the ISO implementation framework is clause 4 till clause 10. So clause 1, 2, and 3 are just a single paragraph statements which talks about what your company is, what it does, and how it operates. Nothing essential. Clause 4, 5, and 6 falls under the plan category. We read about the plan, do, check, and act in the previous slides. Let me go back here. So now we are studying in detail about the clause 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Okay.
4, 5, 6 under the plan cycle. Clause 4 talks about the context of the organization, like the scope of the company, the scope of interested parties, internal and external users, issues, customers, everything falls under the context of the organization. This is just an index page. We'll be studying in detail in the later slides. Clause 5 talks about leadership, like the owners of the company, the policies, the roles, the management commitment. Clause 6 talks about planning, like identifying the risk, doing the risk assessment, identifying the opportunities, risk treatment plans, statement of applicability. Now, what is SOA? SOA is the statement of applicability, which has all the Annexure A controls. So the 93 controls which we are talking about, that all falls under statement of applicability. We prepare an Excel file, we monitor each and every control through the SOA. So that is
What
the
is the
most
full form?
important document under, sorry,
What is the full form of SOA? Sorry.
statement of applicability.
Statement. Okay.
Yeah, so it will have the list of 93 controls. It will detail out of 93 controls, how many controls are applicable to your organization and how many controls are not applicable, along with the reasons. Since it talks about the applicability, it is called as a statement of applicability. Then we move towards clause 7 and 8. Clause 7 is the support and operation. So if you remember the cycle 2 talks about implementation of the actual controls, right? So what it covers, the support resources, which you would require to implement the controls, okay? And the operating effectiveness, like the operational activities, operational planning, risk assessments, and the actual control implementation. So that gets covered in the clause 7 and 8. Clause 9 was related to monitoring, checking whether all the implemented controls are working properly. So it talks about performance evaluation, internal management review, and monitoring. And then finally, the clause 10, which was for ACT, it talks about improvement. Any non-conformities in simple language, it is a control failure. If a control is not working properly, it is marked under NC, non-conformity, and we need to prepare corrective actions to implement that control again in the organization. Okay, any questions on this slide?
No, but I think we should know in detail about this, all the clauses.
Yeah.
So,
We know that. Pooja, any questions from your side till now?
Yeah, actually, this is related to the risk treatment plan. Actually, I have a doubt. If we have the risk acceptance criteria, so that means it covered the risk treatment plan or what?
Yeah, so risk treatment plan basically talks about four activities. Uh,
Hmm.
One that you have answered, risk acceptance. Another one is risk mitigation. How are we planning to mitigate the risk? The third one is risk avoidance, right? How are
Okay.
we trying to avoid the risk? How can you avoid the risk? Through implementation of certain controls,
Hmm.
right? And what is that ISO is all about? In clause 10, we are talking about continual improvement. So the risk register needs to be continuously monitored to identify the risk and to define if we are able to accept the risk, mitigate the risk, or avoid the risk,
Okay.
right? And the fourth one is risk treatment. How are we treating the risk ultimately? So we can implement additional controls, we can take some insurance policies, or we can hire a third party to monitor a particular risk for us. Clear?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So this was the 10 clauses which we have understood in brief. Now we will move to the Annex A controls. So Annex A is basically Annexure A, which jots down all the 93 controls which I was talking. In the clause 6, we were talking about statement of applicability, right? So statement of applicability will have these 93 controls. It is shortly called as Annex A controls. Every control is assessed for applicability in the statement of applicability, the central document of any ISMS. See the importance of SOA. Now, these 93 controls are further divided into four categories: 5, 6, 7, and 8. First one is organizational controls, which is having a count of 37. Next one is people, then physical and technological controls. So these are the four categories which comprises 93 controls under an ISO 27001 framework. So this is the most important part. Now, what are organization controls? Organization controls can be anything around the development of policies, procedures, SOPs, access controls, the security of the vendors, incident management, cloud security, and so on. People-related controls are very less. Whenever we hire any individual in the company for a full-time or part-time role, we do their background screening. We discuss the terms of employment. You will sign an employment agreement with the company. You will define the rules of remote working, the disciplinary process, right? So all these falls under people-related controls. Then comes the physical controls, as the name suggests, the physical security, physical perimeter, equipment maintenance, like your computers should be properly secured with a password, clear desk policy. You all must have heard of the clear desk policy in your company. Secure disposal is an additional control. So whenever you leave your organization, or if your laptop or your hard drive becomes unusable, it becomes corrupted, the company has to securely dispose it so that the data gets completely trashed and becomes unusable, right? Then comes the technological controls. Some of the examples are endpoint security, privileged access, monitoring, CM, vulnerability management. So these are some of the examples of technological controls. So as you can see, most of the controls fall under organizational and technological. And there are a few controls under people and physical section. I hope that's clear.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now we'll discuss in brief about ISO 27701, which is Privacy Information Management System. Okay. The full name ISO IEC 27701. When it was published, 2025, second edition, it replaced the 2019 edition which we were using previously. Okay. Type, it is an extension to ISO 27001. What it adds, it gives us four new clauses, right? Annexures A till F for personally identifiable information processing. Key changes versus 2019 that we'll discuss in detail later. Certifiable, yes, it is certifiable independently as well nowadays. So an organization can be certified under ISO 27001 as well as 27701. Who uses this? Any organization which controls or processes personally identifiable information of their clients, they use the PIMS, ISO 27701. Privacy fundamentals. So now, what is PII? So personally identifiable information is any information that can identify a natural person directly or indirectly, alone or in combination with other data. So examples of direct PII, your full name, your ID or passport number, email address, phone number, home address, office address, anything of that sort. It is direct PII. What is indirect PII? Your IP address, the laptop you are working through, its IP address, you can be traced. Your biometric data, like your fingerprints, retina scan, all this. Location or GPS data. If you are keeping your GPS on your mobile all the time, you can be tracked down. So that's your GPS data. Financial account number, your bank account number, bank account details, IFSC codes, your medical record number. Again, through the use of your medical records, anyone can reach out to you, anyone can locate you, right? Even seemingly anonymous data can become PII when combined. Always assess data in context, not in isolation. So it says that even if your Aadhaar card is anonymous, like you hide the first 8 digits and display only the last 4 digits, it still has your phone number, your address, your name, your photograph, right? So again, it is a PII. Comparison between ISO 27001 versus 27701. The focus. 27001 talks about protecting information asset, which includes data, systems, and processes. Whereas ISO 27701, it talks about protecting personal information and the rights of individuals. Type, it is a standalone certification, whereas ISO 27701 is an extension to ISO 27001. Beneficiary, the organization, any company can benefit through implementation of ISO 27001 for security and continuity of their business operations. Whereas ISO 27701 benefits an individual more because it talks about the private information or the privacy rights. Number of controls, ISO 27001 has 93 controls, which is divided into 4 themes or 4 categories. Whereas ISO 27701, it has additional controls in Annexure C and D, which we'll be talking about. Clauses, it covers clause 4 to 10, whereas ISO 27701 has additional context in clause 5 to 10. And there are some additional new clauses. Yeah, yes, Vinod.
Sorry. Where is the Annexure B?
Sorry?
Annex B is not there. It is A, C, D. It is showing. B is
Yeah.
there.
So what happens is there are multiple standards, right, in the ISO family. So for ISO 27001, they have used Annexure A, and then they have straight away jumped to Annexure C and D. Annexure B is not usable in both of these standards.
So where it is applicable in Annex B?
So it will be applicable into some other standard, but not here. So whatever will be applicable, it will be defined completely in the bare standard which the ISO committee provides. So I'll be displaying the actual standard as well. Let me just do it right away. So this is the ISO 27001 standard. You can take a look how it looks like, right? It has all the information, introduction, compatibility with other standards. See, these are the clause 1, 2, and 3, which were not defined in the slide which I was presenting.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
We read about clause 4 and clause 10. Why it was not defined? Because they are not usable. Clause 1 talks about clause 4 to 10. It talks about the scope of this document. Then clause 2 talks about normative references. which means the definitions. Okay. Clause 3 talks about terms and definitions again. So that all these three areas would be covered in detail under clause 4 to 10.
Okay.
Clause 4 is context of the organization, 5 is leadership. So we'll go through it. I'll quickly jump onto Annex A. So at the top of the standard, we have clause 4 till 10. Once the clause 10 is over, we straight away jump to Annex A controls. So Annex A is basically the table which has the list of 93 controls. You can see Annex A.5, which we were talking about, organizational controls. It has 38 controls. So these are the clause numbers and these are the control descriptions. And then we have clause 6, Annex A.6. It is people related controls. It has 8 controls, 6.1 till 6.8. Then physical controls, and then finally we'll have the technological controls under Annex 8. So that's how the standard is prepared, and we'll be going through each line item in detail.
Shall we get this PDF?
No, this is provided by ISO certification body. So it is copyrighted by ISO IEC, the framework which we are studying. They have prepared this entire framework. See, international standard. This is the 3rd edition, 2022. Yes.
Now, can you get this PDF?
Yeah, this will be shared with you.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now we'll talk about integration, how ISO 27001 and 27701 works together. It's a layered system. So privacy information system management is built on top of the standard ISO 27001. So 27001 is the detailed standard. And then we have a few additional clauses. Any organization which wants to be secure about their privacy, they top it up with ISO 27701. Otherwise, in common, the organizations just go with ISO 27001, not with 27701. Okay. Key distinction: security versus privacy. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Security versus privacy. It is related, but it has different goals. So again, we are talking about information security and privacy. What is the goal of information security? It is to protect the organization. How it can be done? It can be done by protecting information assets from confidentiality, integrity, or availability failures. So as Kavindra was giving an example that a DOS attack is performed, availability gets impacted. But if availability gets impacted, the entire CIA also gets impacted, and it is ultimately a failure. So we need to always ensure that all the three, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, are equally protected. Okay, primary beneficiary is the organization. How it gets benefited? What threats are there? Hackers, insiders, natural disasters. How insiders can be a threat? Suvindu, Pooja, can you give an example how insider can cause threat to a company? First of all, who is the insider?
Employees, I mean those who are working.
Yes, employees and
the physical assets that you are using.
No. Insiders.
Insider. Okay.
The first one is
insider employees.
Yeah, employees is covered. What else? Company owners. They are also insiders,
Okay.
right? The stakeholders of the company.
Can it be vendors?
So vendors cannot be insiders unless they have information about the company, information about the data. Like vendors are said to provide us additional services. Like Zoho is a vendor whose services we are using to have this call, but they do not have access to our company data, right? So that cannot be an insider.
Okay.
But you mentioned stakeholders also, right?
Yeah, so the stakeholders are again the shareholders of the company, right? So the shareholders are a part of all the board meetings, of all the discussions within the company. So they know what all information is circulating within the company, what all new business they are acquiring, what all impact would it have on the share market. So they can use that insider information to trade on the share market.
Okay.
So,
Then more
Shanil, I was saying, uh, back to
yes,
a point, right? I agree with your point, but I was saying lately we have seen a lot of attacks where third-party vendors have been used to breach the main company, whether it be like big attacks by state-sponsored actors, EPT groups, or whether those are small attacks. So we have seen this pattern, right?
yeah. I'll give you one more example, Kavindra. So I was talking about, you were talking about vendors, right? So vendors, I said that if your vendors have access to your personal data, then only it can be a threat. I took an example of Zoho. Zoho doesn't have access to your personal data. It's just a video calling platform that we are using. But on the other hand, if we talk about Google Workspace, where your company's email IDs or data is stored, right? If you're
Right.
using Google database or AWS database, so that vendor
So,
can be a threat.
so if we are using Zoho in case for everything, for emails and all, so
Yeah,
then Zoho
that would
becomes
be
a threat,
considered
right?
as a threat.
So,
Correct.
okay. So they
So
can be
wherever your
implemented
personal
depending
data
upon
is
the
getting
situation.
exposed, it's a threat,
Okay. Okay. Thank
right?
you.
You're using Zoho email to send emails and you're emailing confidential files. So it is getting impacted, sorry, it is getting under the radar of Zoho, right? You are using Zoho servers to share your data or to store your data. So again, anyone from Zoho can access your data.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Um, Success. So how our goal of protecting the organization gives success. No breaches or operations run smoothly. So if you have implemented ISO, all the controls are working fine, you're not observing any breaches and your operations are running pretty smoothly, then you can say that your ISO framework is successfully implemented. Now, if you talk about privacy, its goal is to protect the individual, protecting the right of people whose data you hold, right? Primary beneficiary, the data subject or the principal. For example, if I'm holding your data, your contact details, your name, email IDs, so you becomes the data subject for me. Okay? Threats, unauthorized sharing, profiling, or retention. So what is a threat? That I can share your data without your authorization. I can retain it without your authorization. You asked me to delete your data, but I did not delete it. So that is a threat. Success, if your rights are upheld, if the individuals are in control of their data, that means your ISO 27701 is properly implemented. And ISO 27701 parallelly coincides with the latest DPDP Act, which India has launched. We'll be talking about it also in the ISO 27701 discussion. Regulatory context, privacy regulations, the global legal landscape. So ISO 27701 was designed to align with global privacy regulations. Understanding these shows why ISO matters. So, Suvendu, here comes your question about GDPR, and here comes the DPDP Act, which we discussed, and there is another similar Consumer Privacy Act in the USA, CCPA. Now, whom does the GDPR applies to? It is basically a EU General Data Protection Regulation enforced in 2018. It applies to any organization processing the data which is owned and possessed by EU residents. So as I was saying, GDPR is focused only and only on the EU region data. So anyone residing in the Europe region, their data is so sensitive that you need to comply with the GDPR Act. This is the scale of fines which the GDPR governing authority can impose. There is a 72-hour breach notification requirement. If you are able to notify your breach notify the data breach to the data subject and to the GDPR authorities within 72 hours, then you can get a relaxation from the GDPR authority in terms of fine or punishment. But if you cross the 72-hour deadline, then you will be heavily penalized on all the data breaches. So there are 7 data subject rights which are defined in the GDPR Act. Now, if we talk about DPDP Act, which is basically India's Digital Personal Data Protection Act, launched into 2023, it applies to digital personal data within India. So similar to EU region, our country, India, has a DPDP Act now, which imposes fines up to rupees 250 crores per violation on any company. So if your personal data is not protected by any company, you can raise a complaint in the DPDP Act and you can get a resolution for the same. So it's a consent first processing model. What does it mean? Any data that you are providing to a company, it should be provided only after obtaining your consent. For example, whenever you are opening a website, you get a cookie form and you just click on accept or reject the cookies. So if you get time, you can read the cookies. It asks for your consent that we will be using your data into marketing activities or under any activities which they will list it out. So that is basically known as consent first processing model. No organization should collect your data without your consent. So whenever you raise a complaint, you can ask the company that show me the consent which I have given to you, according to which you are using my data. New concept is the consent manager. Nowadays, the company is hiring a consent manager in their company so that all the complaints or the activities related to consent that can be handled by a separate department. CCPA, California Consumer Privacy Act since 2020. So it applies to California residents' personal data rights. So similar to GDPR, similar to DPDP, it's for US persons. So right to know, delete or opt out of sale. So if their data is stored by any company, the US customer is having a right to know, delete or opt out of that particular sale or marketing stuff. So this is the volume of fines, $7,500 per violation. And it is significant for global tech companies, this much amount. All right. Okay, now comes a group exercise. I think we might need to have it individual. So you'll have 20 minutes. You can opt out of these 3 tasks in any sequence. You need to identify 8 information assets. So since you both are working, you can easily identify 8 information assets in your company. For each, you can spell out the name of your asset, which you identified, the type, and classify if it is a critical, important, or standard asset. For the top 3 asset, we can identify the primary confidentiality, integrity, and availability risks. Okay, any one threat and any one. Okay, we can leave the existing or needed control because we haven't discussed the controls yet. Task 3 is around identifying personally identifiable information of any information asset and which regulations apply to that. Okay, let's go one by one. Instead of doing it on an individual basis, let's do it live on the call. So, Wendu and Pooja, can you name out any information assets from your company?
Server.
Okay.
HR record, like background verification portal, critical
Yeah.
one.
Perfect. Yes. Okay, give me one more, and then we'll go to task.
And data center also.
So data center gets covered in the servers, which Wendu has told.
Data center it is come into the physical that control, I think.
Yeah, servers. So servers are always physical, even if we access it through cloud, but servers are located physically. So servers and data centers are one thing. So we have servers and we have HR records or background verification records. Anything else? There are a lot of
Internet.
information assets you can think of.
Internet. Internet access, this one is.
So internet access, you can say firewall.
Okay, firewall, yeah.
So
Firewall.
firewall rules, right? We have inbound and outbound rules. So that
Okay.
again forms a part of information asset.
Shamil, can we include like laptops and mobile phones also?
Yes.
Yes, that's the most crucial information asset we have.
Right.
And the pen drive that
Yes, any removable media devices, any data storage devices, all
yeah,
falls under
routers.
information asset. Okay, let's move to task 2. So, Sumit, you mentioned servers. So, can you identify the confidential? Can you segregate confidentiality, integrity, or availability on your server example? Under which C, I, or A is it fall?
Yeah, we can do that one. That firewall, if you'll install that, those certification you should
So,
have that.
let's talk about servers first. So, can you categorize server under either C, I, or A?
Either C. Uh, I didn't get actually. Sorry, can you repeat?
Sorry, confidentiality, integrity, availability.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So, where can you classify a server?
Okay.
Okay, let me help you. So, server is basically all about availability, right?
Correct.
If your server is not available, you cannot access your data. So
Right.
that falls under availability.
Yeah, availability. Okay.
What is the threat? That you are not able to access your data on the server. So that is a threat. And what control can we put? Control we shall discuss once we have studied about the controls.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay. All right. What was the next example? Pooja, HR records or background verification portal. So can you categorize it under confidentiality, integrity, or availability?
I think it is come under all three. It is confidential and integrity also, and availability also impact.
No, no. Obviously, all three things will get impacted, but it has to be categorized under one.
Availability.
No,
Integrity, sorry. Integrity.
no, no.
Yeah.
It will be under confidentiality because it has all the confidential data of all the employees,
Mm.
right? Integrity is basically whatever data is there, whether we can trust it or not, whether the data is accurate or not. Confidentiality, it talks about the the actual data. Let me go back to the slide. It will be, yeah, confidentiality. Only authorized people can access the information, right? And obviously,
Yeah.
it falls to integrity, whether the information is accurate and has not been altered. That is the second step. And again, obviously, it will also get involved in availability because the HR records should always be available. But primarily, it stores the confidential data of all the users or employees of the company. Okay. What's the threat here? Can you name any threat?
Realistic threat.
Yeah, any threat around the background records or the HR records.
Server attack when
Authorized access.
Yes, unauthorized access, correct? Unauthorized access and alteration of the data. Like if you have
Yeah.
provided a phone number to the company, someone might alter it and you might not receive any information or communication from your company because the data is altered, right? Or if someone thefts your data, someone gets your data and they may frequently call you and ask you for ransom amount that I have your data, I have your details, you should pay me this much amount. So that's the threat which your confidential data is having. Okay. Task 3 talks about which asset contains PI. So, Pooja, your example, employee HR records,
Uh,
it contained personally identifiable information.
DPDP. DPDP. If it is
Right.
in India, DPDP.
Yes. For India, it will be DPDP. For EU region, it will be GDPR. All right. Okay, some questions again. What does CIA stand for? I believe we have discussed it right now, so you know it. Give a real example of each property we have already discussed. What is the difference between a threat and a vulnerability? Give an example of each. All right. So one example from both of you.
Threat could be anything that could harm our organization, for example, our asset or anything. Vulnerabilities is weakness. If we don't have the threat, so that means we don't have the vulnerability. For
Correct.
example, if
Well,
do yeah,
password,
So password, is it a threat or a vulnerability?
it will be, if you're not using the strong password, then it will be the vulnerability it will come. If
Okay, I'll redefine the password one. So for example, you are maintaining a notebook, right, a copy, and where you have written your login credentials for your company portal. Because
yes,
we are not able to remember all the passwords. Sometimes we note
correct.
it down in the diary. You went for lunch and your diary is lying on your table in front of a computer. So anyone
Yeah,
can open your diary, enter your login ID and password, and access your system,
yeah, it's a threat again. Yeah.
right? So what is the threat? That you have forgot your diary or your notepad on the desk and you went somewhere. And what's the vulnerability? That someone can access your system using that uh, credentials.
Okay.
Okay. Why can you not implement ISO 27701 without first implementing 27001? So because privacy information was an extension to ISO 27001, that's why first of all 93 controls should be implemented, and then we should move towards the privacy controls, which are additional controls to ISO 27001. Question 4, name two privacy regulations and explain one key difference between them. Okay, we recently studied all the three regulations, GDPR, DPDP, and CCPA, so we can leave this question. What is the key difference between the goals of ISO 27001 and 27701? One example from both of you. Question 5.
ISO 2701 for protecting our organization, and this is for our privacy. After
So protecting our organization, what
information, this is it.
correct, correct. And ISO 27701, it's for the privacy of individuals, privacy rights of
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, session recap. This is the recap. Information security protects CIA of assets. The CIA Triad is the foundation. Confidentiality, integrity, availability. The definition of risk, it is identified through multiplication of likelihood and impact. Every risk needs an owner and a treatment decision. Risk modification, risk retention, risk avoidance, or risk sharing. ISO 27001 talks about the information security framework. It is risk-based, having 93 controls and certifiable globally. ISO 27701 is an extension to ISO 27001, which adds privacy-related requirements, data controller, data processor obligations, and privacy controls. Then privacy regulations, we have talked about GDPR, DPDP, and CCPA, how it creates legal obligations to the data owners, and how ISO 27701 is structured to demonstrate compliance. All right, before moving to the next slide, I believe we should take a 5 minutes break again, or else if you want a longer break, we can have a 10 minutes break. Swendu, Pooja.
5 minutes, okay for me.
All right, so let's connect back at 8:10. Let's take a 6 minutes break.
Sure.
All right, thank you. All right. Are we back, guys?
Yes.
Perfect. So, Vendu?
Yes.
Great. Let's continue. Okay. I'll present this screen again. Okay. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you. Okay. The modern threat landscape. So now we'll have some examples around ransomware, phishing, insider threats, nation state actors, AI attacks, supply chain. Let's dive into that. What is the threat landscape? What organizations are facing? So 66% of the organizations are facing ransomware. So remember, we were talking about getting access to a company's entire systems and then calling the company or asking them for ransom to pay certain amount, which ranges into crores and millions of dollars. Only after that, we will be releasing your data. So that is the most sought after attack, ransomware. What it does, it encrypts all data. First of all, any hacker will encrypt all your company data. You will not be able to access anything. And then they will demand ransom to release your data back to you. It attacks all the three CIA properties simultaneously. Average demand which the study has identified, it was around $1.5 million, and a recovery amount which the company would have to bear, it is often 5 times of the ransom. So if my data is breached, if someone is asking me 1 crore, what is the actual cost that I would incur on recovery of the same data? It is 5 crore rupees. So any organization would think of releasing 1 crore as ransom and getting the data back. Still, they are saving 4 crore rupees. So that's how ransomware is working. The next one is phishing. Uh, can any one of you tell me what is phishing?
Unauthorized emails. Uh,
Um, I'm not exactly unauthorized emails. Try something better. Or else you can elaborate what is unauthorized email.
Unauthorized, some phishing emails used to come under name of your company. Sometimes the HR or the information security team, they used to send, okay, these delete these mails, or you report to the information security team because you are getting such kind of mails, so that you will be, your system will be protected and the information also will be protected simultaneously.
Right. So phishing basically means that you are getting an email from someone who impersonates themselves as a genuine person. Like if your company name is google.com, like subendu@google.com is your email ID, you might get an email which looks similar to the domain of your company. It might be GOOGLE.com.
Yes.
So you will not get to know whether your genuine company is sending you this email or someone else is sending. And they will often send some link and they will ask you to click on that link. Once you have clicked, your account will be compromised. So fraudulent emails steals credentials or trick finance into wire transfers. So what is happening to me nowadays in my organization? I'm getting phishing emails, which looks like an email from the CEO of my company, and they are asking to pay certain amount to a client on their behalf, and they will reimburse it with my salary. So that's the phishing emails which we are getting in our company nowadays. So people fall under the trap. They think that the company CEO is asking for a small amount of money, so we should transfer it. And once they transfer it, the money is gone, and it has not gone to the CEO. It has gone somewhere else.
Yes.
90% of all breaches begin with a phishing email to a staff member. So we should always be cautious on before clicking on any external link shared over an email. So that's the most sought after technique, phishing. And BEC means the same, business email compromise. So that is what phishing means. And then we have insider threats. 20% of all incidents are occurring in the form of insider threats. So you guys already mentioned about the definition of insider. Who is an insider? Like the employees, the owners, the stakeholders of the company. Since they have possession of the company's confidential information, they can anytime use it to threat you. Malicious or negligent employees with legitimate access. It is hardest to detect, often the most damaging. They already have your trust. Since you are an employee of the company and there are thousands of employees, it is very hard to detect who actually leaked the data because the same data would be accessible by 1,000 employees. Now you cannot question 1,000 employees whether you have leaked your data or not. So that is why it becomes hardest to detect how the data got breached. What are some of the additional threats? It is nation state actors like espionage or IP theft. If your intellectual property gets stolen, so on a national level, what can be your intellectual property? It can be it can be around your war mechanisms, the technologies which you are going to use in war on a country level. So that is your intellectual property. You must have seen in movies that the villains kidnaps the scientists who are building missiles for the government, right? The best example I believe is Tiranga movie. Have you seen it?
Mm, yes.
Yeah. So they kidnapped two scientists, and they asked to give the code of the missile to release the missile on our own country, right?
Yes.
So that is nation state actors, AI generated attacks, deep fakes. Now, everyone is familiar with deep fakes nowadays.
Yes.
Deepfakes and automated phishing. So deepfakes is like you get a video of mine asking you something, you'll believe it is said by me, and you'll do that. But unfortunately, that wouldn't be me. So whenever you're getting any information, first of all, verify it, verify the correctness, verify the integrity, and then only act on it. Supply chain compromise. So supply chain, do you know what is supply chain?
E-commerce
Chain.
companies.
Yeah, e-commerce is the best example of supply chain. Supply chain is anything shipping. If you are trading in products and you're delivering products to your customers, that is a supply chain. If you are providing services, you are a consulting company and you are shipping services to a company, that is again a supply chain. So if the supply chain gets compromised, right? Let's take your same example, e-commerce. You have ordered something from Amazon, like you ordered a mobile phone from Flipkart, and you get a stone in place of mobile phone. Have you heard of that incident? That people are getting soap bars or stones instead of mobile in the mobile boxes.
Mm.
So that is a supply chain compromise. The delivery partner must have opened the parcel and they must have replaced the phone with something else of the same weight.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that's a supply chain compromise. Now, ISO 27001 clause 6.1.2, it requires identifying all relevant types of threat. Okay. And ISO 27701 adds privacy specific threats. Examples are deliberate PII exfiltration, unauthorized data sharing, and identity theft. Real breach case studies. So I have quoted two examples, one from British Airways 2018, another from SolarWinds 2020. What happened to the British Airways in 2018? Malicious code was injected into their booking page. So the flight booking page was hacked, right? 5 lakh customers' payment card and personal data was harvested for 15 days undetected. So some hacker was having access to the payment card, the debit credit card details for 15 days for 5 lakh customers, and it couldn't be detected for 15 days. And GDPR authorities fined them 20 million pounds for this breach. These are the controls which could have prevented it: incident detection, web filtering, secure coding, security testing. Another example is from SolarWinds, a renewable energy company. What happened in 2020? They had a sophisticated supply chain attack. A malicious code was inserted into legitimate software update. So the company was preparing or rolling out a software update or a patch, and some bugs were inserted into it. 18,000 organizations were compromised globally due to this, and they occurred a fine of $26 million. So, can anyone give me example of inserting a malicious code into a legitimate software update? Any real world example from your personal lives?
This is maybe the patch release when you're doing and sending the customers with the upgraded one. If
Correct.
anything is without any testing or validating that one, you are shipping to the customer. So that may cause problem
That's
actually.
correct. So if I relate it to your personal life, every 4 to 6 months you get a software update on your mobile devices, right?
Mhm.
You get a security patch every month or two, and you get a software update every six to
Yes.
eight months, right? What happens sometimes, once you update your mobile, some of the functionalities do not work as they were working previously. Like there can be some bugs in your camera, in your notepad, in your
Yes.
phone book, something like that. So that can be some malicious code or unintended bugs which were inserted by mistake or intentionally, right, to hamper the normal use of the device. Right,
Yes.
you face some challenges and you wish that you can go back to the previous version, it was working fine, this one is hanging a lot or not giving proper responses. So those are malicious codes or those are bugs. What the company does, whenever this issue is detected and communicated to the company, they work on it, they identify the bug or the malicious code, and they release another patch to correct that all those errors.
Yes.
So even if your mobile software update was legitimate because it came from your mobile device owner, but still it had certain bugs which might have inserted intentionally by the company employees or by mistake. And it can also be inserted by some hackers. So hackers already have the knowledge that, for example, Samsung is going to release a patch or a software update. They will just put a bug in that, a malicious code, and then they can have access to all the systems with the
Yes.
updated software.
So sometimes they used to recall those entire that
Yeah, even that
set
is
out.
done. So that is done in companies for the patches they have released. They recall the patches and they load you back to the previous versions. So that
Yeah,
is an
they stop
alternate.
them.
Yeah. So if they're not able to identify the bug and resolve it, they roll back the previous version. If they're able
Yes.
to fix it, they roll back a new version.
Yes. Yes. That happens.
Business drivers. Why should we implement ISO 27001 and 27001 simultaneously? Regulatory compliance. So it can save us from GDPR fines because we will be compliant with an international standard. And similarly, it will comply with the India DPDP Act as well. So you can safeguard against a penalty of up to rupees 250 crores. ISO 27701 Annexure D maps directly to GDPR articles. So you will also see that what all GDPR components you are complying while implementing ISO 27701. Proactively demonstrate due diligence to regulators. So for all the regulatory authorities, if you are maintaining annual certifications, annual renewals, you can proactively demonstrate that you are being compliant with respect to data security or information security. So that is the benefit on part of regulatory compliance. Then we have customer and partner trust. Certification is often now a procurement requirement. So any company, any customer who is approaching to you, they will first ask the company's credentials. What all certifications do you have? So that we can rely upon you and your information security. So the certifications nowadays have become more of marketing techniques rather than data security. If you want to have new customers, you have to have these certificates. That is the new market trend. Then enterprises and governments require ISO 27001 of suppliers. Privacy certification gives competitive edge against any company which is not having privacy certified. Show us your certification is being replaced by tell us you are secure. So nowadays, companies are more moving towards security, that their data should be secure. So they do not proactively want to see the certification. They want a proof that whatever data will be shared with you as part of a contract, it will be secure.
So this
What are the
27701, that 2025, it is recently implemented, or this
Yeah, so the
privacy
earlier
certificate?
version was 2019 and it has been updated with some controls in the 2025 version. And similarly for ISO 27001, the last update was done in 2022. So we'll be reading around that.
Okay.
Okay. Then what are the benefits on operational and financial side? Structured risk management reduces breach likelihood. So if you have managed your risk properly, there are less chances that your data can get breached. Faster incident response business reduces business impact. So there are a few controls which talks about incident response. If you have a mechanism in place, your business would be less impacted because you will be able to respond faster to any incident and safeguard your organization. Fewer audit findings from customers and regulators. So whenever any external auditing happens on your organization, they will have very few audit findings. Why? Because you're already following the globally recognized standards. Streamlines insurance, lower cyber insurance premiums. So every organization nowadays takes cyber insurance policies. So if you are ISO certified, the insurance company would definitely see that you already follow best practices for data security, information security. So your premium would be comparatively less to an organization which is more prone to any cyber attack, right?
Example, can the last one, the streamlined insurance, lower cyber.
Yeah. So, for example, currently your organization does not follow a standard set of controls. You do not have ISO certification. Okay. Now you want your organization to get insured. You approach an insurance company, ask that this is my organization, see completely, identify the risk. You tell them the risks, and you tell them that you haven't implemented any controls against the risk. So any insurance provider would consider your exposure to risk, right? Since you do not have any control, your data, your information can be easily stolen. You can be easily hacked, right?
Okay.
And if you're hacked, the cyber insurance company has to pay you the insurance amount, right?
If anything
Since you're
happens.
more prone to, yeah, since you're more prone to attacks because you do not have controls, they will charge you more premium. Getting?
Okay.
But on the other hand, if you're ISO certified, you'll show the insurance company that I already have 93 controls in place, so I have very less chances of data breaches. So your insurance premium would also be less because the insurance company knows that it is very hard to crack into your system. So it is very rare that you will ask for insurance or the recovery amount. So that's how the premium amount get deferred.
Okay.
Okay, the 8 privacy principles. So this is a brief about foundations of ISO 27701 and which is related to GDPR article number 5. Every personally identifiable information processing activity must comply with all these 8 principles together. These coincides with GDPR article number 5 and DPDP section 4. So the first privacy principle is lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. It's every company should process PII legally, fairly, and openly. There shouldn't be any hidden processing. So whenever you open any website on the internet, if you scroll down through the bottom of it, you will see a privacy policy. Every company needs to define a privacy policy on their website. If you click on the privacy policy, you will see their entire policy. It will have how your data will be used, how your data, private data will be processed. all the clauses would be mentioned over there. So this is what the first principle talks about, that every company should legally process the PII. Second one is purpose limitation. Collect for specified explicit purposes only, no incompatible reuse. If you remember, I was talking about consent page on every website, the cookies page. So whenever you open any website, you get a cookie pop-up, right? Accept cookies,
Yes.
reject cookies. Whenever you get time, just open the cookies, just read out the contents on any website. It will talk about all the consent which the company is obtaining from you to use your personal data, to use your data, your email ID on the marketing stuff. The moment you click on accept cookies, they will record it as your consent, that you have provided a consent to use your data in the marketing or in the sharing with third parties, right? So before clicking accept, you should always read out what and where your data is being used at, or else you can simply click on reject data. And nowadays, some websites doesn't give an option to reject. They just give you two options, accept or accept all, accept selected or accept all. So for example, they have five consents. Two of it are mandatory, three are optional. So they will give you two options, either accept all five or accept the mandatory two. So this is also how the company is tricking to making you accept the cookies rather than reject it, so that they can collect your data and use it. So that's the purpose limitation. Third is data minimization. Collect only what is genuinely necessary. Less data is equals to less risk. So your company should obtain only those information from the clients which is necessary. Unnecessary information acquired and lost can cause you more penalties. So you should apply the concept of data minimization. The lesser information you possess, the lesser risk you are at. Fourth one is accuracy. The companies should keep PII accurate and up to date. Inaccurate PII causes real harm. Okay. So again, if you read any privacy policy of any company, you will see that there is a clause which says about updating the PII details. For example, you have changed your phone number, so you should go to the company which holds your personal data, and you should tell them that, well, this is my mobile number, this was I was using earlier, and this is my new number. You should update it in your records. So I'll give you a live example from banks. So every year or every 6 months nowadays, banks call you and ask you for updating the KYC, right? If you hold any
Yes.
bank account, you will surely get a message that you reach
Yes.
out to your nearest branch and provide the updated KYC records. So that's how the accurate data is being held by the companies. Then you need to update your Aadhaar card, PAN card again, your photograph, most recent photograph, and your KYC details are updated. So that is accuracy. Point number 5 is around storage limitation. Define retention periods upfront, delete or anonymize when done. For example, you are into a contract with a company. So whenever you sign a contract, there would be a data retention clause, right? Every company will tell you upfront that what is the period of time your data will be stored with them. It can be 30 days, 90 days, 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, anything, but it will be in writing. So that you get to know, once I complete the 3 month period, my data will be automatically deleted by the company. And after the end of 3 months, you can always reach out to the company, ask that give me proof if my data is deleted or not as per contract. So that is storage limitation. Integrity and confidentiality. So apply ISO 27001 controls convergence point of both standards. So wherever ISO 27001 and 27701 is coinciding on terms of integrity and confidentiality, both should be applied. The controls related to integrity and confidentiality, both should be applied. Then we have accountability, demonstrate compliance, document policies, DPIAs, consents, audits. So this is data protection rights. So the company which is collecting personal data should be accountable for it. It should demonstrate compliance. What it means, it should show that we are following a standard similar to ISO 27001 for data security or for information security. So all the customers have a right to ask for the company's accountability before entering into a contract with them. That show us whether you will be able to keep our information secure or not. Once you demonstrate it through ISO certification, SOC, GDPR, any certification, the company can do business with them. The last one is privacy by design and default. Build privacy in from outset, most privacy protective default settings. So you should build a privacy control for the entire organization, not for one or two controls, but for the entire organization. Whatever private data is being held, the privacy system or the privacy structure should be designed in such a way that entire private data is secured by the company. So what happens is, for example, you take a subscription from Google for opening your Google Gmail account, right? They will have certain fields which are automatically applied to your account, but they will always have some additional fields. They will ask you whether you want to use MFA. They will ask you whether you want to attach a backup account, whether you want to attach a mobile number to your account for recovery. So that is protective default settings and additional settings which the company provides. So default settings is obviously there for everyone, but if you want additional security, you can toggle those additional security features on. Okay, any questions?
No, but we will have to go through all this. I think it is.
Yeah, so these things you do not need to remember for ISO. These are just information which will help you build a surrounding for your ISO certification. You need to know of these terminologies, but you do not need to remember all this. This is just for understanding purpose. And if you wish to read through it again, you can take a screenshot of this page. You can read it again after the class is over. But in the entire act, in the entire lecture, there is not a single thing which you need to remember, like you need to hard remember it. No, nothing. You can always refer to the standard, you can always refer to the controls. And the best practice is to refer to the bare standard, which I showed you in the PDF file. So that is the ultimate guide, which will provide you all the clarity which you require for ISO implementation. So these slides I have prepared just for creating a background before entering into the actual standard or the actual controls, so that you are aware of the terms and the clauses which we are going to study.
Because the DPIS actually you are not covered. Just now I found that one DPI. You have
Which one?
you wish to that DPIS something you have mentioned. Where is that?
Oh,
Accountability. I think it is there. Accountability. Where is the last slide? DPIS accountability. So DPDP is there.
So this is again data protection impact assessment. So whatever data the company is holding, they need to protect it, and if they're not able to protect it, they need to assess the impact. If a data gets stolen, what is the impact that an organization is will face, right? What is the amount of fine that it can cost to the company? So that is data protection impact assessment.
Okay.
If you're not able to protect the customer's data, how your organization is going to get impacted, whether you will be liable to fines, penalties, punishments. So this is DPI. Data subject rights, individual rights under ISO 27701. Right to access. So at all times, you should be able to access your data, right? No single company can deny you the access to your data. Okay. Then we have right to rectification, correct inaccurate or incomplete data. So this again you can relate to the KYC, which a bank does. Right to rectification. Any data which you think has changed, you must immediately communicate the same to your data subject, to the data processor, wherever your data is getting stored. The timelines which GDPR Act allows is 1 month, and under DPDP, it just mentions about reasonable period, not a stringent timeline. Right to erasure. Delete data when it is no longer needed. In the previous slide, we already discussed that in any contract, a data deletion clause is there. So your data would be automatically deleted once that period is over. Right to data portability. Receive data in machine readable format. So if your data is held with a company You can always ask them, you can take a pen drive, you can ask them that, give me this data, I want to read it, I want to access it. So they can provide it the HTML version, the actual PDF files, or in any format which you need. So this right to access and right to data portability, it is related. You should have the right to access your data at any times, and you always have the right to collect your data again for your review. Right to object to processing must stop for marketing. So again, if I talk about the cookies page or the consent section, you always have an option to reject the cookies. And once you reject the cookies, your data would not be used for marketing. And even if you have mistakenly clicked on accept cookies, you will start receiving marketing emails. And if you scroll down to the marketing emails, there will be an option to unsubscribe emails. Have you seen it? So there is always an option that you can unsubscribe to these email communications or marketing emails from a particular company, right? It will cease marketing processing immediately. So once you click on that, you will stop receiving all the marketing related communications from that company. Right to restrict processing. Limit processing during disputes. Data stored but not actively processed. Okay, so even if your company is storing any data and it says that we are not processing it, it is just stored. You can always ask them to delete it, right? You can ask them to limit its processing during disputes. You can say that don't use my data in relation to this particular dispute. So these are the rights which a data subject has. Okay, GDPR key requirement. I believe we have already studied about GDPR. It is in force from 25th May 2018. It applies to any organization which is processing Europe or Europe Eastern region data. Maximum fine is 20 million euros. Reach to regulator 72 hours from discovery. So that's the timeline by which you should notify of any breaches. How is it linked to ISO 27701? It is linked through Annexure D, which maps every control through a GDPR article. Now, how is GDPR article in ISO 27701 mapped? We should discuss this once we have discussed about the controls. Since you do not know about ISO controls as of now, it will be difficult to understand the mapping. But in short, there are 6 articles within GDPR which links to these particular clauses. Clause 7.2, clause 3.4, and then we have clause 4.1, 4.2, Annexure D 2.6, and then Annexure D5, D1.5, contract with PII controller. So this is how some of the controls overlaps within each framework. As I was telling in the beginning that there can be 10 frameworks, but ultimately 20 to 30% of all the controls would overlap each other framework. They would be similar. India DPDP Act, Digital Personal Data Protection Act. It was enacted in August 2023, applies to processing of digital personal data in India. Maximum penalty is 250 crore rupees. Regulator is Data Protection Board of India, DPBI. Data fiduciary controller decides purpose and means of processing. So this is basically the judge who will assess any incident. Primary basis, freely given, specified, informed, or unambiguous consent. So what is the basis where DPDP Act applies? Wherever an information is given or consent is given, the DPDP Act applies. What are the differences between DPDP and GDPR? Lawful basis, GDPR has 6 bases, out of which consent is an option. DPDP, in DPDP Act, consent is primary. If you have not provided a consent, the DPDP Act will not apply. Right? Breach notify. GDPR gives a timeline of 72 hours to notify the breaches to GDPR authorities. For DPDP, it does not prescribe a defined period, but we can expect it to be around 72 hours. The DPDP Act just stays a reasonable time. It says that the data breaches should be communicated within a reasonable time, but we can assume it to be 72 hours in connection with GDPR Act. Children's data. So for GDPR, every person who is aged 13 plus their data gets verified by EU state, right? And under DPDP, under 18 are categorized as children in India. So we need a parental consent to apply the DPDP Act.
Here is
Often,
just previous
yes.
slide. The GDPR 6 spaces consent is one option. What is that actually mean here?
So actually GDPR has 6 bases on which the GDPR Act can be invoked, right? So consent is one option. For example, if you haven't given your consent and still the company is using your data, you can file a case in the GDPR authority. And similar to consent, there are 5 more bases on which you can file a case under GDPR Act. So that can be more elaboratively discussed under the GDPR discussion. But that is not related much to ISO. This is just a brief knowledge about GDPR, DPDP Acts. Okay. All right. Now we have lawful processing basis. Oh, you got your answer here. So these are the 6 bases which GDPR talks about: consent, contract, legal obligation, legitimate interest, vital interest, and public task. Consent we have already learned about. Contract, whenever you're entering into a transaction with any party, you enter into a contract, right?
Yes.
So that is again a legal basis on which you can file a case. Legal obligation, required by a real legal or regulatory obligation, cannot be self-created. So if any company reaches out to you, not company, sorry, if any government authority reaches out to you for sharing the data which a company holds, so that is a legal obligation and you cannot deny a government to share any details of yourself, right? So that's a legal obligation. Then we have legitimate interest, organization's interest, unless overridden by individuals' rights. It requires 3-part LIA. So if your data is not in organization's interest, right? Sorry, the data sharing is not in organization interest, you can always file a case or file a complaint to know your access rights. Right? And then vital interest, genuine life or death emergencies only, extremely narrow basis. Like if your personal data breach can cause you life or death situation, then obviously you can raise a complaint against that particular data holding. And then public task, necessary for public interest or official authority. So you must have heard about public interest litigations. So whenever a PIL is filed in a court of law, you get access to all the data, right? So any advocate reaches out to you that I need this information about the company because it is in the interest of mass, like the country. So you can obtain your data and provide it to someone else because it is in public interest. So these are the 6 bases you must have before you process. Okay.
So Sally, this PPTs, I mean the slides will be shared with us finally.
No, ideally no, because you do not have to remember anything out of these slides. We will be sharing the bare standards with you, which will be used in your ISO implementation or even appearing in your examinations. So whatever examples or whatever definitions are there, I'll ask you to take a screenshot, which you need to keep for your record or for your understanding.
Okay.
But everything in this slide is a part of the bare standard. Everything is obtained from there. It is just presented to understand it in a easy way, right? So this is the final summary for today, whatever we have learned. So a differentiator between ISO 27001 and 27701 on the basis of CIA Triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So ISO 27001 talks about ISMS framework, information security. This one talks about privacy. The next one, ISO 27001 has 10 clauses, which is bifurcated into context, leadership, planning, people, processes, etc. For ISO 27701, it provides us additional clause 7 and clause 8 for data controller and data processor. Third one is ISO 27001 has 93 Annexure A controls, and ISO 27701, it has 8 privacy principles, which we'll study about. For ISO 27001, statement of applicability is a very mandatory document because, okay, what is a statement of applicability? Anyone?
Statement of applicability.
Yeah.
I think one of previous slide you covered that is.
Yeah, we discussed about this in very detail. Okay, let me help you revise it. So statement of applicability is the main document under ISO 27001 implementation, which lists down all the 93 controls, and you have to provide applicability and non-applicability along with reason for each of the controls.
Okay.
So while implementing ISO in your company, you will need to prepare a statement of applicability of all the controls.
Okay, but it's not mandatory. All the 93 controls are going to be implemented. And
Right. So 93 controls should be listed down in the statement, and against every control, you need to mark it as applicable or not applicable with a reason.
okay.
So that justification will be assessed by the certification body before providing the company with a certification that you are ISO certified. So that's why it should be correctly prepared.
Sure.
And ISO 27701 talks about annexes C and D, which is enhanced 2025 edition controls. Last, it is globally certifiable, and ISO 27701 has the clauses of GDPR, DPDP, and US CCPA Act alignment built in. So the articles or the sections within GDPR, DPDP Act, it aligns with ISO 27701. All right, so that's it for today. Any questions you're open to ask?
There are lots of things actually you covered at one stage.
Yeah, that's how we are going to cover everything in a 30-hour ISO training.
But each of its slides has some relevance actually is there, importance is there. So I think I'll have to, some jargons also it is used, which I don't know. I'll have to go through that and I'll have to recall everything or remember.
You will anyways revise everything in the coming slides, in the coming lectures, because these terms will be used in almost every slide. So by the end of 10th lecture, you will be remembering everything. You will know what is a risk, what is a threat, vulnerability, SOA, what are annexure controls, what are clauses. Since we are discussing this on a daily basis, whenever we are having a lecture, you will automatically remember it.
But how do that use cases? Let's say we are after doing one interview. So what are the things actually they're looking from the candidate from that point of view? Who can
yes,
give some examples, and here also we can explain that one in future actually when
so,
attending.
If you are getting into an interview for ISO, they will obviously ask you for controls. They will tell you risk, that this is a risk my organization is facing, what all controls should I implement. So once we study all the controls, you will get to know and you will get to link. Like if a company interviewer asks you that any of my employee has left and they are still able to access the information of the company. So the most perfect control for this is access review control. You will just say that you need to implement access reviews on a frequent basis. So whenever you will review access, you will get to know that 3 employees have been terminated and you have not revoked their accesses. So that is how you are going to answer the queries in the interview.
Okay. So that is.
Yeah, hi Sanjay. I have actually one doubt related to the. This is related to the supplier assessment. So, for example, any supplier have the ISO certificate and SOC 2 and GDPR. So, is it still necessary do the detailed supplier assessment, or it is enough as per ISO if we wanted to comply
You
with
should
the
always
ISO?
do the security assessment. If they provide just the certifications or the audit reports, it is not sufficient. You should actually go through the vendor reports, the software reports and the ISO reports, and see what all controls are passing and what all controls are failing. That's how you do a vendor security assessment, right? So for example, you are hiring a vendor you are reviewing their SOC 2 reports, and you want that your data should ultimately be secure with them, but their data security controls are failing. So how will you rely on that vendor? So that's why it is always essential to a detailed vendor security assessment. There is a certain list of control questions, 10 to 20 controls or 10 to 20 questions, which you need to get answers for. So by reading their SOC 2 and ISO reports, you can get answers to all the questions for a vendor security assessment. But never close the vendor assessment just on the basis of obtaining the SOC 2 reports. Any other question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kaveen, Shivanshi, anything from your side?
Hi, Shanil. So all good from